Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're off on a jolly jaunt to Austria, a country that's just chock full of surprises. Now, when you think of Austria, you might picture snowy Alps, swirling waltzes, and maybe even a Sound of Music sing-along. And while you wouldn't be entirely wrong, my dears, there's so much more to this little slice of Europe than meets the eye. We're talking about a land of dramatic history, world-class culture, and let's not forget some of the most captivating women you'll ever lay eyes on. And trust me, darlings, we'll get to them later. But first, let's delve into the heart of Austria, where cobblestone streets lead to grand palaces, and every cafe echoes with the melodies of musical geniuses. From the breathtaking architecture of Vienna to the fairy tale charm of Salzburg, Austria is a feast for the senses. But be warned, this isn't just a history lesson, folks. We're going to uncover the quirky, the unexpected, and maybe even a little bit of the scandalous. So, buckle up, grab a slice of Sachertorte, and get ready to discover the real Austria in all its fascinating glory. Right then, let's start with a bang, shall we? And when I say bang, I mean a different kind of bang. Tucked away in the Austrian countryside is a little gem called the Fun Motel. Now, before you get any ideas, this isn't your typical roadside stopover. Oh no, this place is all about embracing your fantasies with themed rooms that'll make you blush. We're talking disco rooms, Roman baths, even a medieval dungeon. It's the brainchild of entrepreneur Peter Lascaris, who clearly has a sense of humor, wouldn't you say? He envisioned a place where couples could, shall we say, spice things up and let their imaginations run wild. Now, as you can imagine, not everyone's thrilled with this love shag pad. Some locals find it a tad risque, while others see it as, well, a bit tacky. But you know what they say? Different strokes for different folks. And frankly, who are we to judge? Live and let live, I say. Besides, with rooms starting at just €50 a night, it's certainly a cheaper alternative to therapy, wouldn't you agree? Now let's talk about something truly captivating. Austrian women. Forget those stuffy stereotypes, darlings. These ladies are a force of nature. We're talking striking features, impeccable style, and a confidence that could melt glaciers. Think elegant cheekbones, piercing blue eyes, and a certain je ne sais quoi that just screams sophistication. But don't be fooled by their beauty. These women are sharp as tacks. They're highly educated, independent, and know how to hold their own in any conversation. And while they appreciate the finer things in life, they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves and get things done. One thing I find absolutely refreshing about Austrian women is their acceptance of different body types and styles. Whether they're rocking a dirndl or a power suit, they own it with confidence. There's no pressure to conform to unrealistic beauty standards here, darlings. It's all about embracing your individuality and celebrating what makes you unique. And frankly, in today's world, that's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? Right, so we've talked about the Fun Motel and the lovely Austrian ladies. Now, let's talk about Vienna, the city that tops livability lists. It's not just the pastries. Vienna is incredibly safe. You could leave your wallet on a park bench and find it the next day, and it's spotless. The culture is amazing: opera houses, museums, palaces, plus top-notch healthcare, and fantastic public transportation. Vienna's got it all. Now, this next topic is a bit of a downer, I'm afraid. We're talking about Braunau am Inn, a seemingly charming Austrian town. The only problem is, it's also the birthplace of, well, you know who. Yes, Adolf Hitler, that's the one. And let me tell you, the Austrians have been wrestling with this unfortunate bit of history for decades. What do you do with the house where one of history's biggest monsters was born? Turn it into a museum, a memorial, a Wetherspoons? All right, maybe not that last one. The Austrian government has actually gone to great lengths to prevent the house from becoming a pilgrimage site for neo-Nazis. They've even considered demolishing it altogether. Can you imagine the planning permission on that one? Excuse me, I'd like to knock down this house. Yes, the one where Hitler was born. What do you mean I need a permit? But for now, the house remains standing, a constant reminder of Austria's complicated past. It's a bit like that embarrassing photo of you from your teenage years. You can't quite bring yourself to throw it away, but you'd rather not display it on the mantelpiece either. Let's talk about something more cheerful, shall we? Like wine. And not just any wine, but Austrian wine. Austria produces some of the finest wines in the world. Crisp, Gruner Veltliners that make your taste buds sing. and elegant Rieslings that make you want to waltz the night away. You don't need to be a millionaire to enjoy them. Austrian wines offer incredible value for money. Visit the vineyards themselves for the full experience. After a few glasses of Gruner, you just might. Ah, Holat, Austria. You might not know the name, but picture this. Rolling green hills, charming little villages, and a salt mine that's been around since the Middle Ages. It's like something out of a fairy tale, darling, only with less singing and more salt. And speaking of the salt mine, it's not just any old hole in the ground. This place is massive. You can don a fetching little miner's outfit and take a train deep into the mountain. It's a bit chilly down there, so pack a sweater, love. Wouldn't want you to catch a chill. Now, a word of warning. Holat is absolutely stunning, but it can be a bit sleepy in the off-season. Think tumbleweed rolling down the street, shops closed, that sort of thing. So if you're after a bustling holiday atmosphere, best to visit during peak season. But if you fancy a bit of peace and quiet, a chance to reconnect with nature and maybe bump into a few goats, then off-season Holat might just be your cup of tea. Just don't expect to find a decent cup of love. Right, let's talk public amenities because Austria, my dears, takes it to a whole new level. Forget those dodgy public toilets you cross your legs to avoid. In Austria, they're practically palatial. And the best part? Free drinking water stations everywhere. No more forking out £3 for a bottle of water at a tourist trap. And hold on to your hats, ladies, because at some bus stations they even have weight measuring devices. I know, right? Talk about keeping you on your toes. Although after all those delicious Austrian pastries, ignorance might be bliss, eh? But the piece de resistance, the thing that really tickles me pink, is the public cooling fountains. Yes, you heard me right. In the summer, they have these fantastic fountains where you can just stroll up and give yourself a little spritz. It's like a mini spa day on every street corner. Honestly, after a hard day's sightseeing, what more could you ask for? Well, maybe a nice glass of Gruner Veltliner, but we'll get to that later. Now let's talk about getting around, because Vienna, my dears, has a transportation system that would make a Londoner weep with envy. First up, we have the City Airport train, or CAT for short. This sleek little number will whisk you from the airport to the city center in a jiffy, no traffic jams, no fuss. Then there's the S7 train, your trusty steed for exploring the outskirts of Vienna. It's like a magic carpet ride, only with more comfortable seats and fewer genies. And if you want to feel like a true local, hop on a tram. They've got a tram network that's more intricate than a spider's web, and it'll get you just about anywhere you need to go. And the best part? It's all incredibly affordable. Forget about remortgaging your house just to afford a taxi ride. In Vienna, you can travel in style without breaking the bank. Just try not to get too smug about it when you're chatting to your friends back home, all right? All right, let's talk about the Austrian way of talking, shall we? Now, you might have heard that Austrians are quite direct, and darling, they are. None of that beating around the bush, no siree. If an Austrian thinks your new haircut is a disaster, they might just tell you. But before you clutch your pearls, it's not meant to be rude, honestly. They just value honesty and see it as a sign of respect. No sugarcoating, just straight up good old-fashioned honesty. Refreshing, isn't it? It certainly makes for some lively conversations, I can tell you that. So, when you're in Austria, remember, don't be offended by a little straight talk. Just take it as a compliment. They think you can handle the truth. And who knows, you might even learn a thing or two about yourself. You know, the things your friends are too polite to tell you. Now picture this. You're in Vienna, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, and you hear the gentle clip-clop of hooves on cobblestones. No, you haven't wandered onto the set of a period drama, darling. You've just encountered a Fiaker. These horse-drawn carriages are as much a part of Vienna as Mozart and Sachertorte. They've been around for centuries, and let me tell you, they add a certain je ne sais quoi to the city's ambiance. Imagine yourself snuggled under a blanket, a glass of champagne in hand, as a handsome steed whisks you past the Hofburg Palace. It's the epitome of romance, isn't it? Of course, some might say it's a bit touristy, but who cares? Life's too short to be a cynic. So when you're in Vienna, treat yourself to a Fiaker ride. You won't regret it, just try not to get run over by a tram. Now, some of you might think Austria is all about snow-capped mountains, waltzes, and dare I say, a slightly slower pace of life. But let me tell you, underneath that charming exterior lies a powerhouse of an economy. We're not just talking schnitzels and strudels here, people. Austria boasts an impressive GDP, a high standard of living, and global brands like Red Bull and Swarovski calling it home. The average Austrian enjoys a comfortable lifestyle with a decent monthly income and a strong social safety net. And let's not forget those stunning alpine views. So the next time someone tries to tell you Austria is stuck in the past, just point them to their bank account. Or even better, to the nearest Red Bull-infused cocktail bar. Cheers to that! Now, you can't talk about Austria without mentioning the music, darlings. It's practically oozing from the walls. Mozart, the original child prodigy, practically haunts the place, in a good way, of course. Imagine penning your first opera at the tender age of 12. I bet he was a right laugh at parties. And then there's Beethoven, the grumpy genius who gave us some of the most recognizable tunes ever. He probably wouldn't have been much fun at a piano bar, what with the whole going deaf thing, but his music, legendary. And don't even get me started on the Salzburg Festival. It's like the Oscars, Coachella, and a royal wedding all rolled into one big, extravagant Austrian extravaganza. Opera singers, orchestras, the works. You might even bump into a real-life Habsburg prince or princess, or someone who looks remarkably like one after a few glasses of Gruner Veltliner. Trust me, it's an experience. Just try not to hum along too loudly, you might offend the purists. Right, let's talk about air conditioning, or the lack thereof. Now, in many parts of the world, air conditioning is as essential as a good cuppa. Not in Austria, my dears. Here, it's all about embracing the natural breeze, or lack thereof. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they're living in the Stone Age. They have the technology, but it's just not as ubiquitous as you might expect. It's partly a cultural thing, a deep respect for nature and all that, and partly, I suspect, a financial one. Aircon can be a right pain in the wallet, can't it? But fear not, you won't be melting into a puddle of sweat. Austrians are a resourceful bunch. They've got their fans, their open windows, and their breezy summer wardrobes. Besides, a little bit of heat never hurt anyone, right? Just think of it as free sauna time. Now prepare to be dazzled, because Austria is practically bursting at the seams with architectural wonders. Vienna in particular is a veritable feast for the eyes. We're talking Baroque palaces, Gothic cathedrals, Art Nouveau masterpieces, you name it, they've got it. One look at the Austrian Parliament building and you'll be reaching for your camera. It's like something out of a fairy tale, all grand columns and intricate statues. And don't even get me started on the Schönbrunn Palace. It's so opulent, so over the top, so utterly fabulous, you'll swear you've stepped into a Disney movie. The Hofburg Palace, the Belvedere Palace, St. Stephen's Cathedral. I could go on, but I wouldn't want to bore you with all the architectural jargon. Just trust me on this one, Austria is a sight to behold. Even if you're not usually one for staring at buildings, you'll be utterly charmed by Austria's architectural wonders. Now, darlings, we can't possibly talk about Austria without mentioning their love affair with coffee, can we? In Vienna, coffee isn't just a drink, it's an experience, a ritual, a way of life. You pop into a cafe for a quick espresso and you end up spending 3 hours debating philosophy with a charming barista named Franz. And speaking of charming, the Viennese coffee houses themselves are something to behold. They're like stepping back in time with their plush velvet chairs, marble tables, and waiters in crisp black and white uniforms. And the aroma, oh the aroma. So seriously in fact that UNESCO has recognized Viennese coffeehouse culture as an intangible cultural heritage. The Viennese coffeehouse is still a hub for creativity and intellectual exchange today. Now let's talk about ordering a Wiener Schnitzel in this fine land. Austria is a predominantly German-speaking country. Be prepared for a slightly different melody to the German you might have learned. Austria also has a smattering of other languages sprinkled throughout. It's a veritable United Nations of accents, particularly in the East. Think of it as a linguistic goulash, if you will. And you know what they say about people who speak more than one language, don't you? Sexier, that's what. Not that the Austrians need any help in that department. Who knows, you might just charm your way into a free Sachertorte. So there you have it, darlings. Austria in a nutshell. Well, not really a nutshell, more like a giant strudel overflowing with deliciousness. We've delved into the fun motels and gotten lost in the musical genius of Mozart. From the snow-capped Alps to the cobbled streets of Vienna, it's a country where you can waltz the night away, indulge in creamy pastries, and explore castles that look like they've sprung straight out of a fairy tale. But what truly makes Austria special is its people. Warm, welcoming, Austria has given the world so much. From classical music to world-class skiing, Austria should be at the top of your list. Well, my dears, it seems our little Austrian adventure has come to an end. But before we say Auf Wiedersehen, don't forget to tell us all about your Austrian escapades in the comments below. Have you ever waltzed in Vienna? Did you find the Fun Motel, well, fun? We want to hear all about it. Your stories are what make these journeys so enjoyable, so don't be shy. And if you're new here and enjoyed this little jaunt through Austria, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more travel tales and cultural deep dives. We've got a whole world to explore, and we wouldn't want you to miss a single adventure. Until next time, my darlings, stay curious, keep exploring, and remember, life's too short for boring holidays.